Hey there, it's Krystal Everdeen, and today I'm going to take you along on my journey of trying to figure out how to crochet a puff sleeve top because I've never done it before and I feel like I have a pretty promising idea of how to make one in my head, but I don't really know how to do it, so we're going to figure it out together. For this project, I'm using size 4 yarn from the brand Red Heart, and it is 100% acrylic. I'm also using a size 5mm hook. And I don't really know how much yarn this is, so a lot of people ask me how much yarn I use. I'm just using this leftover red yarn that I had, so I have no idea. And the first thing that we're going to do is grab our yarn and then make a slip knot. Now, if you're a complete beginner to crochet, I do have a Crocheting for Beginners video that I will link in the description box below. So after you made your slip knot, you're going to go ahead and chain a chain that is long enough to cover from one side of your ribcage to the other. Essentially from here all the way over to here on your body. But if you want an exact number of chains that I make, I'm usually a size extra small or small depending on the top, and I made 80 chains total. So after I made my 80 chains, I'm going to go ahead and go back on that chain with a single crochet. Now again, going back to the chain, make sure that you chain as many chains as you need to cover that from one side of your ribs to the other. That way you don't just make 80 and it's too small for you or too big for you. Just go off of your body. You don't have to do 80 chains, just so you know. But yeah, after you have created that chain that's long enough to cover that part of your body to the other, you're going to go back on it with a single crochet. And just as a refresher, a single crochet is through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over, through 2 loops left on your hook. So through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over, through the last 2 loops, through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over, and through the last 2 loops, last one, through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over, through the last 2 loops, and that's what a single crochet looks like. And I like using single crochet for tops like this because it is one of the tighter stitches and they're not as see-through, but of course you could always either wear something under or you could sew in a layer of fabric if you don't feel comfortable wearing the top just by itself. But yeah, so you're just going to continue on this chain with a single crochet until you reach the end of the row, and then we're going to go ahead and start our second row, but I'll show you what to do at the end of every row so that we can keep the edges straight. Okay, so now that I am at the end of the row, I just need to make sure that I go into the very last stitch of the row, and then I'm going to chain 1, flip the project over, and then go into the very first stitch of the new row with another new row of single crochet, making sure that I do not skip any stitches. So the bodice of the top is just going to be a big rectangular piece, which is nice and easy to do. Essentially, you're just going to make rows and rows and rows of single crochet until you put the project against yourself and you're happy with the coverage. So you're just going to continue making rows and rows of single crochet, making sure that every time you reach the end of the row, you always make sure to go into the very last stitch of the row, and then you chain 1, flip the project over, go into the very first stitch of the new row, and then continue on making single crochets on top of the previous row of single crochets. And you need to do that at the end of every row, otherwise your edges will not be straight. They'll start to curve in, and we do not want that for this project. So yeah, as long as you do that at the end of every row and you don't skip any stitches, then the pattern is very simple. You just continue making rows and rows of single crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this is what the project looks like so far. Again, you can see the edges are nice and straight because I continue with that pattern, making sure I go into the very last stitch of every row, chain 1, flip the project over, then go into the very first stitch of every row and not skip any stitches. So this is what it looks like so far. And I'm just going to continue on. So it turns out that I am quickly running out of red yarn. So for the sleeves, I'm actually going to use a slightly different red. So if you could see the difference, that's why, because I had to use a different red because I ran out of the original red. But I still have some left, so I'm going to go ahead and finish up here. Now the project is a little bit shorter than I would have normally liked, but it's good enough. I'm okay with the coverage. But for you, hopefully you have enough yarn so you can keep going until you're actually satisfied with the length of the project. So you just put it against yourself as if you're going to wear it. And once you're happy with the coverage, then you can move on to the next step, which is to make the straps. So this is going to be like a tube top, so you're going to fold it like this, and then we're going to make straps to crisscross on the back, kind of like a little bit of a lace up or like corset style. So from here, once you are happy with the length of your project, you're going to chain 150 chains, or you're just going to chain a really long chain in order for it to have enough length to lace in the back and then also have enough to actually tie it. For me, I do 150 chains, but you can go ahead and chain however many you need, more or less if you like. But for me, it's 150, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 150. So now that I have chained my 150 chains, I'm going to go back on it with a slip stitch. Now this is optional. I just like going back on the chain with a slip stitch, not only to make the chain more secure because it is thicker, but also so I don't have to cut the yarn from the yarn ball and then reattach it to the other side. I'm just going to slip stitch my way down until I get to where I started, and then I'm going to make one more row of single crochet across to the other side and then make my other chain of 150, and then I'll be done. Now if you forgot what a slip stitch is, it's through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, and then through the loop on your hook. So through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, and then through the loop on your hook. And one last time, it is through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, and through the loop on your hook. So you're just going to continue doing that all along the chain that you just created, and once you get to the bottom, you're going to single crochet your way across the top to the other side and just make the other chain. So now that I've made it all the way down the chain with that slip stitch and I'm back at the top, I'm going to again make my row of single crochet. This is going to be the very last row of single crochet we're going to make on this top, so that we can get to the other side and make the second strap. Now if you don't actually want to add another row of single crochet, you can just detach the yarn from the yarn ball and then reattach it to the corner over here where you want to make the new strap, and then make your 150 chains or however many chains that you made for the first one. Then go back on it with a slip stitch, and then you'll be done with the project. What do you think, you guys? Do you think I'll be able to make it with this much yarn you left? Well, actually it turns out that I did not have enough, so I'm just going to end it here. But for you, make sure that you actually have enough yarn. I'm actually just going to unravel this project after I'm done with this video and then use the yarn for another project and another video. But for you, please complete your top by making sure that you have enough yarn. But anywho, from here, after you have completed both straps, you're going to grab one strap, bring it on over to the opposite side, and kind of determine where you want them to be. So I kind of want to attach it here, and then I'm going to bring it on over to the opposite side and attach it like right here, and then finally bring it on over once again and attach it to the bottom. So I'm going to attach it here, here, and here. So bring it to the opposite side, attaching it right over here, bringing it through with my hook, and then with my hand, and I've attached it there. Now I'm going to attach it right over here on the opposite side. Now I'm going to attach it one last time by bringing it to the opposite side and then attaching it to the very bottom, bringing it through with my hook, and then all the way. So that's one side nice and attached. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing with the other strap and kind of just align it adjacent to the first strap. So I'm going to attach it here, which is around the same spot I attached the other one on the other side. So right there. And then I'm going to take it again and attach it to around the same area as the other side, but on the opposite side. And then bring it through with my hook. And then finally, I'm going to bring it on over to the opposite side one last time. And I'm going to attach it to the very bottom with my hook. And then bring it through to the other side. Why is it stuck? But yeah, that's the lace up portion of it, and that is the bodice of the top. So now we're going to add sleeves to it. And for me, I'm going to have to use this slightly different colored yarn. It's like a different feel and texture to it too. But I think it'll be like more stylized that way. But if you want your sleeves to be the same color, just make sure you have a ton of the same color yarn. Anywho, so from here, we're going to determine where you want your strap to start. So you can put the project against yourself and figure out where you want the strap to be. That's what I'm gonna do. So I've determined that this is the stitch I want the strap to start in. So I'm going to put my hook in there, and then I'm going to grab my yarn and then chain a chain that is long enough to wrap around my arm. This is going to be the length of your sleeve, the width of your sleeve, where your shoulder is, so make sure that it fits you comfortably. I'm just going to keep chaining and chaining, and then when I think that it's going to be able to wrap around my trap and shoulder, then that's when I know I'm done. But I'll let you know how many chains I do. So I ended up making 55 chains, and again, this is going to be what wraps around your shoulder and back, or I guess like your trap and then your back. So make sure that this portion fits you, like your arm could fit in there, and then you like the way it's going to fit when you try it on. And then after you are happy with that, figure out where you want to attach the strap to. I'm going to attach it to this stitch. That way when I put it on, it all makes sense and it fits where it's supposed to. So after you have determined that, then you're going to slip stitch so that's nice and attached, and this is your sleeve. So from here, we're going to do a couple rows of single crochet just to make this a little bit thicker, and then we're going to do the actual puff sleeve portion. So from here, I'm going to single crochet one stitch next to it towards the outside of the top, so not towards the inside of the top, but towards the outside of the top. That's where we're going to single crochet one this way, and then we're going to single crochet on top of the actual chain itself. So yeah, just single crochet on top of the chain until you get to the other side, and then you're going to single crochet one to the side. Again, always away from the top. We want to make the sleeve go away from the top, not towards the top. So yeah, you're just going to make this first row of single crochet. So I have reached the end here, so I'm going to single crochet into the next stitch that is again away from the middle of the top. So going this way, you can see if you can get a better visual like this. Yes, so this is the main top, and we want to be making our single crochets go this way. So from here on, this is how we're going to do the puff sleeve. Now it's totally up to you what stitch you want to use, but since I'm running out of yarn, I'm actually not going to use a single crochet anymore for the sleeves. I'm going to use a double crochet just so that it's a little bit bigger and covers more space so that I don't have to use as much yarn. So again, you can continue to use single crochet from here on if you want to, but I'm going to use double crochet. But anywho, from here, we're actually going to, instead of going back and forth on the chain that we created, we're actually going to start going in a circle. So we're going to crochet our way around here and then up the chain and around again, and then just around and around in a circle, and it's going to continue building and building and building until you have like a puff essentially. So yeah, from here you're just going to continue crocheting. Again, I'm going to be using a double crochet, so it's going to look a little bit different than what the rest of the project looks like. As you can see here, there's a lot of space in between, so it could cover more ground, and I'll be able to use less yarn and cover more ground, which is exactly what I need because I am running out of red yarn. Hopefully you're not in the same situation as me and you planned ahead and you got a lot of yarn for this project. But anywho, so I went ahead and I crocheted on here, and now I'm back at the strap, so I'm going to go all around like so. And yeah, that's pretty much what you have to do. So I will meet you here once I created a couple rows to let you know what it looks like. So this is what the project looks like after one row. I actually think that it looks really nice with the double crochet actually. I probably prefer it to the single crochet because the double crochet is like more flexible as opposed to single crochet. So, and again, this is what the project looks like. So I'm just going to continue around and around and around with my double crochet until it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then once I am happy with how big it is, then I'm going to start making it smaller in the end by decreasing the number of stitches per row. But I'll go ahead and show you how I do that once I get to that point. But yeah, from here, we're just going to continue making rows and rows of a double crochet, which if you are unfamiliar with what double crochet is yarn over, through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, and you have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, go through 2 of those loops, then yarn over and go through the last 2 loops. And that's what a double crochet is. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to go all around in a circle a couple times until I'm happy with how the sleeve looks, and then I'll show you how I end it. So this is what the project looks like after a couple more rows. You can definitely see the poofiness starting to form, right? Well, now we need to properly complete the poof and start decreasing the number of stitches per row. So every, say, maybe like 5 stitches, I'm actually going to skip a stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and create 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 stitches, and then I'm going to go ahead and just skip over this one, and then just create 5 stitches, and then eventually skip over the next one, and then create 5, and then skip 1, and then create 5, and then skip 1. And little by little, the opening is going to get smaller and smaller, and there's going to be a bubble forming, which is going to be the puff sleeve. So yeah, just every 5 stitches, go ahead and skip the next one, and then create 5 stitches, and then skip the next one, so on and so forth. And eventually you'll decrease enough to make a small opening. Just make sure that you do not make it too small because you still need your arm to fit through. So make it until the opening is just large enough to fit your arm. So now that I'm pretty happy with the size of the puff sleeve, I'm going to do 2 rows of single crochet to complete the puff sleeve, and then I'm going to reattach the yarn to the other side and then do the exact same thing, making another puff sleeve the exact same way. So yeah, from here I'm just going to make 2 rows of single crochet, and again I just decided that this is the size of the puff sleeve that I like, and I made sure that my arm does indeed fit through the hole still. So when you're making your puff sleeve, just make sure that it actually fits and that you didn't accidentally make it too small. So I have completed those 2 rows of single crochet, and then I detached the yarn from the yarn ball, brought it through the last loop to seal the project, and then I reattached the yarn to the other side and then did the exact same thing, created my second sleeve, and this is what the top looks like. I think it looks really cute actually. And again, this was my very first attempt at making a puff sleeve top, so it's not perfect, not only because I didn't really know what I was doing and I had to unravel and do it again a couple times, but also because I didn't know how much yarn I needed and I ran out of yarn, so that's why it's 2 different kinds of red. But overall, I think it turned out really cute, and I do plan on making another tutorial that's more refined as opposed to this one, because again, it was my very first time. But I hope that if you want to make a puff sleeve top, that this kind of gives you an idea of how to do it, until I'm able to make a more like beginner friendly, easier to follow version, which I do plan on making in October. So, and it's gonna have like a special twist to it too. I'm really excited for it. But if you just wanted some general ideas of how you would make a puff sleeve top. But regardless, I hope you still found this video either interesting, entertaining, or helpful. And if you did, please give it a big thumbs up before you go. And also don't forget to click that red subscribe button if you have not already, so I can see you next time. Bye! And have a magical day.
These days, under the sun together. These days, let's make them last forever. These days, let's hope they last forever.